This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. How awesome is it? A lovely, lovely morning starting with these wonderful wildebeests. So hop on board, everyone. Let's go on safari. Good morning. How awesome. I'm so happy to be back with you, everybody. And I'm so glad that we actually found some wildebeest this morning. And they look like they're having the time of their lives. Hey, everyone, it's me. It's Trishal, and I've got Niels on camera with me. And we're going to have an awesome time this morning. It's a little bit chilly. It's about 8 degrees Celsius or 47 degrees Fahrenheit. And I think that I actually missed the chill, which says a lot for me. Anyway, guys, please do communicate with us. Use the hashtag WildEarth. You can use the YouTube chat stream. And our wonderful kiddies, please send your questions to kiddsquestions@wildearth.tv, and we can answer them as best as we can and hopefully get as many in as possible. Let's have some fantastic discussions, and let's just drive around and see what we can find. These lovely gnu gracing us with their presence this morning. Very peaceful out here in Djuma. Have a listen. very, very still and peaceful. Beck, you are hoping for some of our Juma cats and you hope that they show themselves today. Well, you know, Steve is also out on Juma, and while we were doing our checks, we heard some growls not too far, close to Gallagher Pan kind of area. So he went and followed up. So maybe, Beck, we'll be in luck. Now I am going to head south and then head towards Chitwa, see what we can find. I think one of the most exciting things about being out in safari is that you don't really know what's around the corner, what's in the next road, and that's half the excitement. Whether in the next road it's a fruit or a flower or a leopard or a wildebeest. It's just about the journey, and I love that. So it's wonderful to be back and wonderful to see you all, kind of, through the camera. You know what I mean. So this is our regular herd that we see around a quarantine. They did snort at me when they saw me, and I thought, oh, maybe it's an alarm call. But no, it was just at me. Anyway, I was chatting to you about Steve, so why don't we find out what his plans actually are.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to my vehicle. My name is indeed Steve, joined by BK on camera. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, excitement is on the air. We don't quite know what to tell you at the moment, but while we were sitting doing our checks, we heard growling. Now we haven't found a track. We've just gone away from camp and we've done some circles and we haven't found a single track. Apparently Moati, big male leopard, was calling and sawing on the dam cam. He is not an easy leopard to find because he's not relaxed. He runs away. Now the kind of growl is kind of the growl that you would have if a leopard was sort of telling a hyena what he thought of it. That's the kind of growl I was hearing. But it was coming from the drainage line just between us and Gallagher. We've tried to have a look, but unfortunately nothing has shown itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some concentric circles and have a look at the newspaper of the morning. And then it is Monday, and we all know what that is. Some of you probably don't. I'm a little bit mad on Mondays, and I'm going to be harvesting a plant today and breaking it down a little bit to you into sort of some medicinal characteristics, ecological characteristics. And we're going to be looking at a plant that the elephants are loving at the moment, specifically the bark, and we wonder why. You just have to wait and see. Now I have done this plant before, more than 2 years ago, believe it or not. So I'm going to be redoing some trees that I've done before in the past. So I do apologize for those of you who have seen them before, but they are still quite wonderful to break them down and get right to the nitty-gritty of it. But it's not only us out, obviously, this morning. I think I'm sending over to Eric to say good day.
Good morning everybody and welcome to Anbion Ngala. My name is Eric and Owen is behind camera as always. Both of us wearing gloves this morning. It's a rather chilly morning, I'm sure you've noticed by my many layers again. We are doing something slightly different to what we did yesterday. We had such a wonderful evening with that pride of lions around the waterhole. We thought we might as well try and explore a slightly different part of the reserve. And so we are sort of moving into more of the eastern part of the reserve and just to try and see if we can find any tracks or signs of some leopard or anything else exciting. I looked at the thermometer that we have at camp and it registered 1 degree Celsius this morning at 5:30 in the morning. So it was freezing cold, but it does seem like it's actually warming up really nicely. So, ooh, there's a really cool little owl. Can you see it there, Owen? That white spot in the tree over there. Looks like it's as cold as we are. Oh, beautiful. Sorry, I can't see. It's about 1 meter off the ground. So come down. Just now move to the left. Go left, go left. Other tree to the left. Yeah. Left or right? Left. Okay, see bottom right of the frame there? There we go. That is an amazing view. Took a while, but luckily it's feeling cold and it's not really too scared of us this morning. And look at its eyes, it looks so angry. And so this one, we'll have to just make sure. There's two different species. We get the African barred owlet and we get the pearl spotted owl. So I'll just have a quick look. It does look like it might be the African barred, but I'll have to double check. I don't want to call the wrong one. It does. Yeah, it's definitely an African barred owlet. If you look just on the chest, those horizontal stripes go down quite prominently, and then there's a sudden stop, and then it starts becoming those little spots, whereas the pearl spotted tends to be more streaky rather than those little spots there. It's really nice to see. It must be feeling freezing. I'm sure that nice down feathers of it is really helping keep it nice and warm. Yeah, it is one of my favorite little owl species for sure. It seems like there's something rustling down on the ground that it's... So George, you asking how many different species of owls are found in southern Africa? And there's more than you think. I'm actually just counting all of them, and there are, in my book of southern Africa, there are 12 different species. Within the region of Ngala, we'll probably see about 6 of the different 12 species. And there's some really nice big ones, some very, very small ones, and this ranks as one of the smallest owls that we see in southern Africa. It's definitely looking down on the ground there, and these owls have got incredible hearing. And so if it's something small, like a little rodent moving through the grass, it would have locked onto that sound to try and see if it might be a viable option to try and get one last little meal. And it's so nice to see it at this time of morning, because this one tends to be slightly more nocturnal than its the pearl spotted owl, which looks pretty much exactly the same. The pearl spotted owl actually is one of the only diurnal owls, at least, that we find within Ngala itself. It just looks like a big round ball of fluff at the moment. Batalia, thank you for saying it was a good spot. Remember, it's not a pearl spotted owlet, it's a barred owlet. So try harder on your puns next time. Just joking. And there it goes. It was the most obliging little owlet, and it's just gone, it's perched on the higher tree up over there. And one of the other distinguishing features that we can use to try and differentiate that between the pearl spotted is the white V that it has on its back. And so if it turns around, we might be able to see a very distinctive little white V. It's always really cool to start off with a little owl like this. They're definitely some of my favorite family of birds. So it looks like this owl's found a happy spot. It's definitely not as good as the view that we saw initially. So myself and Owen are going to keep driving, seeing if we can find any tracks or signs of leopard this morning, and we'll send you back to Trishala.
Maybe the pearl-spotted owlet is owl good. Yes, I'm back, everyone. Also, I have a t-shirt that says that on it. It's owl good. Now we are looking at a russet bush willow. I thought it's just so pretty, why not show it to you? It almost looks like a Christmas tree with tiny little ornaments all over. Isn't that stunning? It's also a wonderful time to take the opportunity to just sit and listen, see what clues the bush has to offer us. It's thinned out quite a bit, as expected, since we're in our dry season, right in the thick of it. But still a lot greener than it was this time last year. All the trees and shrubs and plants will be trying to conserve as much as possible. So they'll drop their leaves, they'll stop investing in making chlorophyll, so the leaves turn off green, reveals other pigments in the leaves. And then those leaves will start to fall off, or they've already started to fall off. There's a tiny layer of cells just where the leaf meets the branch, and it's called an abscission layer. And when nutrients stop going to those leaves in a time when there's very limited resources, like in our dry season, then they start to fall. Jenny, you say you love these pods. Aren't they just stunning? I love them too. I feel like they're little helicopters because they've got these wings that'll assist it in dispersing. You can see it really clearly there. Helps carry it. And there's a seed safely tucked away in the middle of it. Now, I'm not hearing anything just yet. Emma has just said to me that lots of viewers are throwing out a chameleon challenge. I will take you up on that offer, dear viewers. I shall. It's going to be a little bit difficult, just as Neil shows you that sun, and that's why it's going to be a little bit difficult. It's much more, or it's a lot harder to spot them once the sun is out. And also in this kind of weather, where it's a little bit cool, to say the least, they're tucked away near the branches of the trees. But hey, let's try it out. I'm not near any bush that I know to have a chameleon. Oh, how pretty is that? But I guess we'll have a go. Why not? Imagine if there was a chameleon right there. That would just be amazing. Super pretty. Oh, Emma says that wouldn't be much of a challenge. That would be Neil's getting a gold star if he happened to zoom in and there was a chameleon right there. That would just be amazing. Grasses, as you see down there, will also die and collapse. And that's what can be a fire danger at this time of year, especially as the wind picks up. There's all this fuel around the bush. And grasses, when they collapse on each other, they suffocate and kill each other. And that's why it's so important that we have grazers that trim down these grasses, because it's what the grasses need in order to grow. It is so quiet, but I see some rays of sunshine pouring through. Yes, finally. Well, I'm going to keep on going, head off to Chitwa, and hopefully we can find something special. Now I'm going to send you over to someone else to say good morning.
Good morning everyone, welcome to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Clive and behind the camera we have Marcel this morning. And we've started out this morning's drive firstly with a sunrise, as you can see, and one lonely wildebeest just below the sunrise. What a beautiful way to start this morning. And we cannot wait for the sun to just get up above these trees and start warming everything up. I'm sure everyone's been saying how cold it is this morning, all over the country. So from where we live here, we heard some lions this morning in, we guessed, this exact area where we are now. So we came straight out here this morning, and there are tracks all over this area on our right hand side, but going in the direction of the sun. So that's where we headed off to after this. We're going to start following these lion tracks and see if we can get lucky this morning. So this little wildebeest is just a lonely bull, a male, who's out here, and this is all part of his territory. Oh, he's got something itching him. Yeah, all part of his territory. And he's just using this time to feed. Now, I've just heard a baboon alarming in the distance. What a beautiful sunrise this is. Oh, wildebeest is walking straight towards us now. Look at this. That is weird. You don't often have wildebeest just walking straight towards you like that. That is walking behind us now. Very nice. There's beautiful birds calling this morning. Alright, well, while I carry on this little lion search for you this morning, we're going to send you across to Eric.
We've just decided to stop in this clearing and wait for the sun to try and warm up a little bit. But like I always like to do, is just spend this little bit of time to listen. It's such a beautiful time of morning just to be able to hear the birds calling, see if we can hear any impalas or anything vocalizing or alarm calling at this leopard that we're trying to look for. When I was on, I think it was about 4 days ago, I got asked whilst we were driving back towards the lodge what a civet track looks like, and I tried to explain it a little bit, but I think it's so much easier just to show. And we've got a track of a civet that walking, well, at least was walking straight down the road that I'd really like to show you. So here it is over here, and I mentioned that it looks very, very similar to a cat track. And so there are 4 toes, 1, 2, 3, 4 over there, and then a little back pad. What we can't see clearly too clearly is that there's no 3 lobes like a cat does. So if it's a leopard that we're looking for, remember at the back it's always got those 3 lobes. This one has just got, it almost doesn't even have lobes really, it's just got 2 like that. And so it was walking straight down the road. There actually was 2 civets. There was one walking down this road and one walking on this side of the road. And on top of the civet tracks walking down this side of the road is actually a nice big male lion track that was walking straight down there. And he was calling at some time around, I think it was about 8 o'clock last night. And so he's probably moving in the direction of where those lions were yesterday. Make sure that my blankie's nice and wrapped around my legs before we get going. And so he could be quite a long distance away. So he's heading out of the area that we would like to search for this leopard. So probably not the best option to try and track down this morning. But you never know, maybe he's around. But I think we'll focus a lot more on trying to find any sign of leopard this morning. So civets tend not to travel in pairs too often. You'll see it if it's a mother and a cub, but usually they're pretty an exclusively solitary animal. And so what could have happened, it could have been the same civet walking one direction and then turning and walking down the same road potentially. It could be some sort of boundary that they have between two different individuals. It's quite hard to say. The tracks look pretty much exactly the same size, so if it was two adults, not a mother and cub. We've got some little birds on the road up ahead of us. Diva, it would be very cool to see a pair of civets. I think I've only ever seen civets one at a time. I don't think I've ever seen two together. Oh, before the other one darts off the road. The two little Natal spur fowls that were on the road, not really wanting to be on camera this early on in the morning. This is such a pretty section that we're just about to get to, and the sunlight is just hitting the trees so beautifully up ahead. So there's some really beautiful trees that we find along the riverbed, and one of the best trees in the area is this big Balanites that I'll see if we can stop and just have a quick little squiz at. Especially because the light is just hitting it so nicely at the moment. Yeah. So, let's have a look at this tree. And what I've found really, really interesting at this time of year, and it's the first time I've seen it a lot, is elephants have been pushing and headbutting these trees a lot because they've yielded a lot of fruit this season. And I mean, if you look down on the ground over here, I hope my mic reaches, but it's basically, you've got grass, and then where the fruits have fallen, you've just got this bare patch of where these elephants have been walking around looking for the individual fruits. And I'll see, I mean, no. Here's one, and here's another one. So this is what the fruits look like. So we've got one that's been already eaten over here, like this. And then this is what it looks like, and the skin has come off. And within this fruit, there's supposedly a very sticky oil that actually burns, and that's where it gets its name torchwood from. I've tried it once or twice. I haven't waxed the technique of actually burning it, but apparently it will hold a flame really nicely. So it's used to, I think people used to stick it on almost like a stick and have this flame burning from the fruit. Apparently it is mildly poisonous to people, so I won't try it, but it won't cause us too much damage. But I think it's from after a few years of indecent rain, we had a really good rainy season, so these fruits yielded really nicely. Okay, so whilst we carry on driving looking for these leopard tracks, let's send you across to Trushala.
We have some white-crested helmet shrikes. Very, very busy this morning, as they always are. It's been hard work trying to just get them on camera. There they are. Busy, busy, busy. Lovely time of the day for for birds because the air is nice and cool. It's just a birdie time, the morning, isn't it? Still bouncing about. Let's see if we can get another quick view. See them just through here. Can you? All right, got them. Oh, they're in the back of the trees. All right. I don't think they want to be on camera, these guys. They keep flying away, but I think I'm not surprised. Are you? There's that one sitting here. Tell me if I'm good. No! Okay, just at the back there. Right on behind the deadlock. Still there. Right in the middle. Hurrah! And gone. Just like that. But they're just stunning. Stunning, stunning birds. Got them. Oh, you're back. Gil again. Well, they would be really busy because they need to make the most of their morning. They're quite quiet, but they're going to be looking for all kinds of little invertebrates, insects. Oh, quite a few of you are saying this is the first time you've seen white-crested helmet shrikes. Well, I'm so glad that I could add it to your bird list. I really, really am. Beautiful little things. I love the yellow around their eye. I've said that I'm going to make my way to Chitwa, and me making my way to Chitwa has become slower than I anticipated. Because I'm really enjoying just driving around and experiencing Djuma again. Been keeping an eye out for tracks as well. Haven't seen anything just yet, but maybe we will pick up on something. Out on Chitwa's side, there's the possibility of Kuchava and her lovely son. And then around the southern boundary from Djuma towards Chitwa, there's also Sibui. Haven't heard anything about them possibly being around, but let's go and check. Like I said, you don't know what's around the next corner. I've been seeing tracks of elephants, but I haven't seen or heard any just yet. Here, having not heard them is important because though I may see tracks, and though they may look pretty fresh, it's a very distinct sound of them feeding, particularly at this time of the year when the grasses are really not that nutritious, and they would be breaking a lot of branches and going for the bark and inner bark of trees, so they're quite loud. I would love to see them. My favorite sightings are always with elephants. So let's put that on our list, and I'm going to head out to Chitwa.
Welcome back to NBN Phinda Private Game Reserve. We had some line tracks a little bit earlier behind ahead of us, continuing and seeing if they pop back out onto the road here. There's quite a big watering hole coming up ahead of us. So we're going to stop there. It's possibly where they went last night. So we're just going to stop there. We'll see if there's obviously any lions around. Let's see what else is around. Maybe there's some nice birds. Oh, but at least the sun is coming out, as you can see, and starting to nice for especially some of the predators to still be moving around at this time of the morning. You find leopards being a lot more active at this time of the year. The lions.
Hi guys, you're back with me. Sorry about that, but I'm sure we'll get Pinda back in no time. This is interesting. So we have a gymnogene, an African harrier hawk, plucking its breakfast. And I know that you had an African green pigeon being eaten by the fish eagle yesterday or the day before, I'm not sure. And this bird that it is plucking is certainly green, but I think it might be a brown-headed parrot. Haven't had a chance to look at the beak because that would be a giveaway. But there seems to be some grey-brown. Ooh. So let's wait and see. Well done, Gymnogene. You got yourself some fresh brekkie. Formidable hunters, these guys. You seem to have something on your beak. Look at the way it can clean those feathers. One of the theories as to how birds became so successful, because getting a bit of a biology lesson here with this gymnogene. And one of the theories is that from animals that are beaked, birds are by far the most diverse. You get turtles that have beaks as well, and birds are just incredible with their diversity. And having given up their fingers and arms for wings and gained this ability to fly, they've lost... Sorry, Game Drive Radio. They've lost the ability to use fingers and arms to actually pluck and pick. But they developed their beak so well that it almost became like a surrogate arm in a way. And this is an excellent example of how it's being used as such. Such precise picking. Yeah, I don't see the yellow sort of leg warmers that would normally be on an African green pigeon. So to me, this looks like a brown-headed parrot. All of you say this is crazy cool to see, as Emma describes it. It really is. Sometimes it's difficult to see. I mean, this parrot is being, stripped, essentially, publicly as well. But that's the way it is. Everyone's got to eat. Oh, look at those strong talons. Grasping it just with one foot. Oh, Ronan, you say you hope it's not the Damcam parrot? Well, we're quite far from the Damcam. We're actually towards the southern boundary on Weaver's Nest Road. So hopefully it's not the Damcam parrot. Amazing. Well, its coverings are being plucked off. Steve has something with softer, cuddlier coverings.
Well, everybody, we've got some good news, some very good news. We found some tracks, and then we figured out what it is that was causing the growling. Are you ready for it? There we go. And we have got the Nkuhuma Pride, everybody. How exciting is that? And I think it's the Nkuhumas. We've only just managed to get in. I found the tracks, and we heard noises earlier, growling, but it wasn't clear. It's definitely a cat growling at something. And we found the tracks. Oh, hello, little one. We found the tracks on Voitela Access, and I walked in to try and investigate, and I found an area where they had definitely been lying and had a poo. And I don't quite like the smell of lions, especially when they've been lying down and where they poo. It is quite revolting. So we did a loop around the block because the noises had stopped at that point, and they've caught what seems to be an impala. An impala is just bones now. There's really nothing left. Let me go forward here, Beaks. I think we might get another little look around this bush over here. Hello, pale eyes. You're beautiful, aren't you? Tell me when you're happy, Beaks. You're good? Now she's gone and caught herself a smack on the nose, or is that just blood on the nose? Yeah, she's got herself a new war wound. See the blood on the legs all over the place. They've ripped an animal to shreds. It hasn't lasted very long. She's got blood all over her back. Martin, how exciting is this? Very exciting. I mean, it is over the moon to find. When I found the lion tracks, I just suddenly knew, okay, they've got a kill of some sort. And, well, it's not the biggest of kills, but it means we've been able to at least track them down. Now, on our way in here, trying to find them, we found a hyena that was doing some interesting loops. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the hyena had a nick in the top of the right ear. The right ear, I think that's heart. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Like sort of a V shape out the top of the right ear. I forget. I don't have my ID kit on my phone anymore. But anyway, we have found the Nkuhuma Pride, everybody, and this is marvelous. Marvelous indeed, way to start the day. We heard that like, and it obviously goes further than expected because we're far further than when we started, where we thought they were. We went to that point, we stopped, we switched off, and we couldn't hear any more. So they'd obviously already grabbed the impala and ripped it apart. And once that early feeding has commenced and the animal gets ripped apart, they don't normally make as much noise anymore. And now we framed Heart for you, I think it's Heart, a moment ago. And we were sitting there waiting, trying to figure out where she was coming from. And then we heard a little bit of a fight between a couple of the cubs over probably a little leg bone or something. Very good. Well, there we go. Nkuhuma Pride. They are back. Megan, is this not delicious light? Yes. I commented yesterday on when light is delicious, And this is about as delicious as light can get. Golden light in the early morning on the tawny cat. There we go. Some of you might be very confused with the word delicious or yummy light. And I was mentioning it yesterday, that by being in this light, if you do take photos and you start editing and you start seeing what your pictures look like under an editing program, you'll notice when it's not in delicious light, you will notice it very, very quickly. Those pictures just get booted because you can't edit it. There's no, you can add some light, but it never really looks the same. Never looks the same. I'm by no means an expert editor, everybody. I started editing about 2 months ago. So I know when I've seen pictures that make me go, that's delicious, and pictures that I just throw away. Here we go, BK. We've got this little one's coming to say hello to Mum, or to Big Sister. Auntie, clean the blood off my head, please. I'll lick your chest. You got blood on your chest. Delicious. Delicious. RDM, it is wonderful, isn't it? Sitting here in the morning enjoying the lions while they digest what we think is an impala. I haven't really seen. I can hear a few bones cracking, but I can't really see any remains anyway. Beautiful. This is one of Ridge Nose's cubs, one of the bigger boys. There's 2 of them. I'll see if I can count. I haven't really been able to count. They're all over the place. I'll have to do a proper head count shortly and tell you how many cubs there are. Are you going to count? Oh, there we go. BK's found a torso. That youngster there, that's Ridge Nose's other cub. 2 of the bigger boys. They will get more meat than the other cubs will. And as they get bigger, they will get even more. They will dominate for a period of time until they eventually get ousted and pushed out. It almost looks like the lower spinal section with the hips. It's always the biggest and strongest bones in the animal body. Critter Freak, that's exactly right. The first thing I noticed when I got here is that most of the cubs that I saw looked quite healthy. I did see one a moment ago with a really nice big dark patch on the bottom and furless on the tail, but other than that it didn't look worse than it did last time. And they've probably had a few meals since I last saw them. Last time I saw them was with that buffalo that they chased over to Little Gowrie. Oh, I think he's going to need a toothpick after that. What a prize, hey? Now, big male impala, 120, 130 pounds. I don't think it's a big male impala. So the amount of meat coming through here is not enough to support the pride, so maybe they'll go off and hunt once more.
Sounds like we are off to a fantastic start at Djuma with those lions. We haven't seen too much in terms of leopard tracks on our side yet. We are taking a quick little detour to what I've found one of the most productive little clearings that we've been noticing a lot of general game species in recently. So I thought, because we're in the area, just a quick little 5-minute loop around that open area just to see if there's anything interesting there before we continue our search of leopard down towards the river. It's amazing. It's one of those roads that I just can't help myself but drive along when I'm in this area. It's one of my favorite roads. Really nice, beautiful views of the Drakensberg Mountains that I'll get to show you shortly. And then hopefully some nice general plains game. Zebras, giraffe. About a month ago, we saw, hey, there's our giraffe. We saw a giraffe that had just been born, and it was born literally about 2 or 3 days before we saw it, and we see it occasionally around here. So I'm just going to slow down and see if maybe this little giraffe is with the group. But we've got both zebras and giraffe in the edge of these clearings. Oh wow, lots more giraffe than I initially saw. And there we go, and they're all feeding, most of them at least are feeding around exactly the same bush. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 around that tree, and then one more off to the right. And then another one, so 6 giraffe and a nice herd of zebra. There's the one coming in from the distance. And so if we have a look at these giraffe that are all feeding around the tree there, if we have a look at their heads, I mean, look at how all of them have got quite nice thick horns, pretty much no black tufts of hair. So these are a group of young males. And so I doubt that that little one is around here with a group of males. And then one female slightly off to the right. And a really nice comparison to look at the difference in the horn structure. So look at these ones' horns, or ossicones I guess is the more technical term. And then if you scan more to the right, that one on the far right hand side there, that one. Look at how much smaller those horns are. So there's 2, male and female in shot. I mean, just look at the size difference. Yeah, I think it's a nice big group of giraffe. I mean, a lot of the time, especially if it's males, we might only see 1 or 2 at a time together. Females tend to be slightly more gregarious, but even then it might be 2 or 3 with some offspring. So to see a group like this is really quite interesting. And I mean, look at the one on the right hand side there, how it's just walked over to the female and bent down to her tail to sniff. So just to see if maybe there's the chance of her coming to estrus. And look, I think each one of these males might do exactly the same thing. And because they're young, they probably don't really have a good chance of being able to defend essentially the mating rights for her. If there's a bigger one in the area, they will definitely come and outcompete them. There's actually, I've just seen in the distance, there's another one, so that's 7 giraffe. And a really cool little zebra that's just about across the road. Milepost is asking what the collective noun for giraffe is, and there's a few different ones. If we're looking to get technical, apparently, if they're all together but standing still, I've read before that they are technically known as a tower of giraffe. but then if they're moving, they are called a journey. So this would be a cross between a tower and a journey, because some are moving and some are standing still. But I usually just refer to them as a journey of giraffe. A journey of giraffe, and then I wonder if anyone knows the collective noun for zebra, seeing as though they're in the same frame. So it's called a dazzle of zebra. So there's only one of the youngsters, or one young zebra at least, and the rest of them seem to be all adults and sub-adults. So this could be a herd of maybe one male or one stallion with a few females as his harem, and then potentially a few other younger bachelor males that have just latched on. And we are talking about the difference between male and female giraffe. Zebra are sometimes a little bit more tricky to tell the difference between the males and the females. And I mean, with a couple of them having youngsters, it's maybe slightly easier. But Owen, if we can go to the zebra on the far left-hand side of the group, who's now being blocked. But that one that we can see its tail, I mean, if it turns and looks or faces directly away from us at least, it's not doing that now. There's a really nice example, but essentially the males have got a very, very thin vertical strip between their legs, whereas the females have a much broader one. There's another smaller group of zebras approaching. We are going to maybe just stick here for a few more minutes to see if we can find any more general game species, but then we might continue back down towards the river. And whilst we're doing that, we'll send you across to Stephen Duma.
Thanks, Eric. Well, we are with the Unkuhuma Pride still. I haven't yet managed to get a proper count. We've got 4 adults here, and then 5, 6, 7 adults that I can count. Now, cubs are sporadic and all over the place. Got 7 cubs currently that I can count. I think I might have actually just got 9 there. It's very difficult to get all of them. Little puddle of lions. I think I've got 9 cubs. Ah, wonderful. So not so wonderful for the impala, everybody, but you've seen how many impalas we have on the property, and they serve that function of a buffer food. They provide food for lions and the whole wide variety of predators on the property. And the Unkuhumas seem to have followed buffalo in last night, because we had a herd of buffalo on Power Lines Road, and that's pretty much where we found the tracks of the lions coming in. So they must have picked up on the smell tracks of the buffalo. We're probably trying to follow them, moved into this block. This is not the way the buffalo went. Maybe they moved in because they had some other sounds. And this is quite a thick block, quite dense vegetation. Near impossible to track them in here. It was good to be able to hear some noises. Those of you who've heard me maybe say the word Unkuhuma It is the name of this pride of lions. There's a couple historical meanings behind it. First of all, we have the Umkuhuma tree, which is called the brown ivory tree, and there's some stories that go to say that they were found under that tree once. But then Umkuhuma also means to come out of, and it is apparently they came out of the Manyeleti, which is to the north. Look at this little one's eyes. It's a little wild one. Look how shaggy he is. Hello, little one. Coming to see if there's any scraps over here. This big lioness is going to walk past you, BK, looking you right in the eyes. Saying, sorry I boxed you on the nose. Well, yeah, it's a very good question. It's very hard to say. Obviously, you get different sized prides and you get different sized animals. And a pride of this size now, they need to kill more regularly and they need to sustain themselves off bigger kills. So, you know, I've followed prides of lion in the past and found the remains of 6, 7 impala in one evening that they've eaten and moved. So you don't even know how many animals they do eat. But what they estimate, what scientists have figured out, is that every single lion needs over 100 animals per year. 100 animals of about the size of a zebra. Now that is a lot. A zebra wildebeest, every lion per year. Work that out. That is a lot. That is a lot of animals. But yet, bearing in mind, a lot of these animals are breeding as well. And when they get buffalo are regarded as probably 3 or 2. Okay, it is a male impala, everybody. I can tell that now because the lion that is... Let me just move forward, BK. You'll see the one under the bush here that is growling. He's got the head. Tell me when. And the little youngsters are trying to get quite antsy and trying to come and get there's the youngsters there, and the adult just in front of them to the left has got an impala skull, and it was a male. So you're looking at about 65 or 60 odd kilograms, 125, 130 pounds of meat, or in total. That includes the bone structure. So what the dressed meat mass is, I wouldn't be able to tell you directly, but most of the animal would actually get eaten except for the biggest of the bones. But it is a good morning over to Tswalu Kalahari, and Dylan and Jandre would like to say good day.
Good morning, everyone. It is another glorious day out here as always. The wind has died down completely. It's warmer than it was yesterday. Jandre is doing his magic on the camera over there. And my name's Dylan. And it is just great having you with us, as always. And please just enjoy your drive with us. Ask us the questions that you want to ask, whatever they might be. And let's just go out and have an amazing and fun, exciting day out there. So look at the duck flying here. Okay, so this duck, okay, remember, there he goes. That is Sheldon. That is Sheldon, the shell duck, the South African shell duck. And this is a big mission that I'm on now to try find the nest. So his partner, who has been given the name of Shelly, so it's Shelly and Sheldon. She's got a nest somewhere. And their surname is going to be Shelby. So it's going to be Shelly and Sheldon Shelby. And over the coming days, coming weeks, we're still going to do our absolute best to try find where they're nesting. And it's going to be really challenging because there's so little known about their nesting. I've actually contacted, and I mentioned briefly yesterday, I contacted a chap at the Fitzpatrick Institute that heads it up down in Cape Town. And he was just saying they know so little about these ducks, and any data that we can get on them in terms of the nesting behavior and that would be absolutely invaluable. It's not going to be easy. I've spent a substantial amount of time in between drives over the past week trying to locate it. I haven't had any luck yet, but that's not going to stop us from carrying on trying. Veronica, meerkat habituator, she's been assisting in other areas there with that as well. We've had guides, we've had trackers looking for them, but it just shows These birds are incredibly sharp, as most birds are. When they got a nest, they obviously don't want it to be like advertised. Okay, unless you're a sociable weaver, a little bit different. But a lot of these birds, their nests are very, very well camouflaged, very, very cryptic, and their behavior doesn't just lead you straight to the nest. That would be a pointless objective if you're trying to protect your eggs and your chicks and that kind of thing. So anyway, it's going to be really fun. So that's the Shelby family. That's Shelley, Sheldon, Shelby. So we're going to see if we can track them down over the coming weeks. Just out of interest, and this is going to be really fun, on Wednesday, our temperatures are going to go down to -9. -9 on Wednesday. Watch this space.
We were just about to leave, and then these zebras crossed the road where the sunlight was even better. And I mentioned that it's been a very, very productive clearing that we've been seeing, and this is just the prime example of what happens around this area. We've got zebras and giraffe walking right on top of one another. It's so beautiful. And two animals with such completely different patterns and coatings and colors. The contrasting colors and patterns between them is really cool to see right next to one another. And you can just see me in this giraffe now, with all of these dead knobthorn trees, and then probably one of my favorite features is the mountains. That's all the way in the background there. So probably about 45, 50 kilometers away from Ngala, we get the Drakensberg Mountains that we can see in the distance over there. Both of these zebra and the giraffe are moving in exactly the same direction. And I would imagine that they're probably moving into an area to try and find some water for the day. And because we don't really have too much water around this area, I think the closest waterhole is that waterhole we spent so much time with yesterday. And that is probably some 7 or 8 kilometers as the crow flies from here. So they'll probably just try and walk in a straight line there. And then you might find that they'll come back into this area later on in the evening. Anna-Marie, majestic is a very good word to use to describe these animals. I agree. They're so beautiful. I love seeing different species reacting with one another. And there's not too much interaction going on with these ones. But again, with those giraffe, can you see how at least 4 or 5 of them have gone straight over to the same tree, and they're feeding on exactly the same tree. It's a bit far in the distance now, but maybe I can try and get a closer look. It might be quite worth it because the trees actually looks like it might be slightly tall for a few of them. Maybe we get to see how long a tongue of a giraffe can get. Let's quickly go across there. Oops, that's a rock. It looks like those giraffe are actually moving away from that tree, so we might not actually get to see how long a giraffe's tongue is this time. Myself and Owen might just decide to continue on to try and look for any tracks or signs of leopard now.
Thanks, Eric. Well, we've managed to reposition ourselves and get another view of the lions, and there are 9 cubs, all slowly but surely filtering into the bushes around us. There is Amber Eyes lying down. She just gave up and gave a disapproving look at the cubs a moment ago. Well, this is lions, everybody. They will go through bouts of activity. Have a look at this one walking here, BK. Look how the fur is so fluffy. There we go. It's walking right in the stomach content of the impala. That is where the impala was ripped apart. And that is the rumen content splattered all on the ground there. You can see it. It's a nice fertilizer, nice organic material, lots of insects. It's got quite an interesting smell to it. Cubs are making some funny noises. Many people always used to find me strange as a guide because I tell them, oh, I can smell it. Can you smell it? It is the smell of rumen. And the smell of rumen actually, out in the bush, gets them quite excited. Because if you can smell stomach content, it means you can smell a kill. And, well, I suppose we all get off our own different ways. So that is stomach content littered with blood, a little nutrient hotspot. It's not the smell of 5-day-old buffalo that's being eaten in the bush. It is a fresh smell. There's a difference between the fresh rumen and a carcass. A carcass, there's that rotten, dead smell. Everybody knows what the smell of death smells like. That smell really turns me off. But rumen content in the early morning, nice and fresh. What is that one eating there, BK? Oh, it's got itself a piece of bone. Billy the Magpie, thank you for telling me I'm not strange. I really appreciate that, although I know I'm a little bit weird. But that's fine. Who wants to be normal? That's Amber Eyes, everybody. She's got such gorgeous eyes, doesn't she? She's got a few cuts on her nose too. A few new scratches and scars. Now, when lions, and we were talking earlier about how much food does a pride of lions need and how regularly do they need to eat. They can go for 2 weeks without eating. They don't, but they can. But what happens with smaller carcasses, and we talk often about breakaway prides, what happens with smaller carcasses if lions encounter only small animals is the competition gets much, much stronger, much more fierce. They scratch each other more, they fight each other more over the food. So eventually that leads to a split up in a pride once it gets too big, because there's just not enough food. So if they're only eating impala or small antelope regularly, you will often find prides splitting up due to that exact reason. And that's why the search of buffalo and giraffe is ideal for pride of lions, because it provides them with a lot of meat. It reduces the need for them to be as competitive or as fierce, because to be a lion, you need to be as fierce as possible to survive. Is she going to come smell the rumen? There we go. See, she likes it too. She's looking for some scraps. So you need to be as fierce as and competitive as possible. That's the front of our car. Oh, she's got a bit of a limp. A little bit of a limp there. Kelly, you want to... Oh, look at this beautiful light. Hello, Ridge Nose. Oh, you're beautiful. Kelly wants to know if they eat the bone right down to the marrow. Well, Kelly, the lions will eat most of the bones if they can break them open. So with an impala, you'll probably find the hips and maybe some of the bigger vertebrae will be left alone, and the skull. They'll bite the face off, and most of the cheek and all of that will be eaten and crushed, but you'll find just bits of the head and the skull behind. If it's a small antelope, a small baby animal, they will eat it all. So it all depends on the ossification and the time that animal has had to grow. Like a small baby can be completely ingested and digested and broken down by even a leopard. But the big, larger bones, those are what I think was heart is hanging around. Here we go, BK. Look at this little one's bottom. Hello, little bottom. Sorry, little one. He's got... a little one who will just walk past. So the cub's mange is looking like it's getting better. There's still those patches of fur, but it looks like the fur is starting to grow in and around from the outside. They've got some bald patches. So yes, they will eat most of this animal. There won't be much left. And that's why we don't know how many animals they actually eat, because you won't find much in the way of remains. You'll often find rumen content on the floor, and that's all you have to go with.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Sure, it's beautiful. I'm glad that Steve found those lions. He was so excited when he heard growls this morning, and we all heard them. And off he went. Here's another beautiful scene. Many, many, many impala. Well, at first when I arrived, they looked a little bit alert. But I think as the animals have today, just been a little bit shocked at seeing me back, I suppose. But of course not, guys. They don't remember me at all. I am but a speck on the vehicle. But they're looking out in all directions. And what I love about sitting with a herd of impala is there's nothing quite like when a predator walks by, or they smell a predator, or they see a predator that I can't smell or see. So in a way, they're my extra ears and eyes out here in the bush. And when they start to alarm and they're all in a group like this, it's spectacular. There's this excitement, it bulls up inside of you because you know something is coming, something is nearby. And when one alarms, you know, they could also be a little bit nervous, but when they're in a herd together and they all start to alarm, it's just too exciting. But everyone here seems pretty relaxed for now. You can see there's some grooming going on. You get a good look at the teeth there as well. See those incisors? Yes, you scratch my side of head, I scratch your side of head. Those incisors are a little bit loose, so they act like a comb as they move through the fur of the impala. There we go. And then lots of cud chewing, or rather just chewing. Some of it is cud chewing, but they prefer to sit down while they chew their cud. How cute was that little head that just popped up? Peaches, you say they're just chowing down? Of course, Peaches. I was just saying to Niels that my audio is now going to compete with the sound of my stomach. Everybody's hungry out here in the bush. By that I mean myself and the impalas and the Nkuhumas and that gymnogene. At least that's what evidence we have so far. That's my game drive radio beeping at you. Anushka, you'd like to know if we put salt licks out for the animals. We don't, but you do get natural salt licks. So, sodic areas, which are sort of just before an actual drainage, just before the Mawati, for example, you get this dark sodic soil. And that is an area where salt and minerals collect. And animals will sometimes, if they need it, go there and chew some soil, lick at it, so they can get additional nutrients. Now, they don't always do that. It's usually an indication that something is missing from their diet. But if there's one thing that all creatures are great at, it is adapting so that they can survive. They're so, so peaceful. I love it. There's just one big male in here. He seems to be ruling the roost for now. All right, I'm going to head further out. I think I'm going to go over to Chitwa Dam and see what's happening there. I'll send you over to Pinda.
All right, well, we definitely do have a water scene here and quite a few beautiful birds. And one thing that really struck me about this little scene is the reflection of the birds in the water as well. Very, very pretty. So there's a couple of different birds here. The ones with the big long yellow beaks, or bills should I say, are yellow-billed storks. Then there's a slightly smaller white bird in between them that's got a very funny shaped beak, you might be able to see. Bill again. Now you might be able to see that it's kind of straight but with like a spoon looking shape on the end, and that is called an African spoonbill. Very interesting little bill shape, and it uses that to filter through the water and get out little snails and even small little fish, I suppose, out of the water. Very interesting little bird. Pronaz, no, neither of these birds that we see here are migratory. We see them all year round here in Phinda. Oh, there's actually one more bird. Myself, you go almost all the way to the left, there's another white bird kind of sitting by itself. Not the yellow-billed stork though. There's one more bird there called a little egret. So there's actually 3 different birds. And that one's also not migratory. Also here all year round. I just want to show you the shape of the bill of the African spoonbill that I was talking about, because sometimes if it's not pointing the right way, it's going to be a bit hard to see. But have a look there. There's the shape of the beak. You can see it's almost like rounded on the end there. So a very pretty bird though. But it's just such a beautiful scene here. Now the reason we came out here from far away, we saw that there was some giraffe that's almost behind us now. So we'll go there after this. But we thought we would just stop quickly and have a look at what different birds we had here. And I'm glad we did. It's a beautiful spot. Darcy Ann, thank you. Yes, they are very, very pretty birds, I agree. But it looks like they're all just resting and maybe warming up in the sun like the wildebeest was doing earlier and like we have been doing most of the morning. It's been icy cold here. Right, I think it's only going to take us about 1 minute or so to drive around to where these giraffe are. I can see them just off on our left. So let's go quickly. There's going to be a really nice view of them, it looks like. And it looks like there's a couple of younger ones. But while we get over to these giraffe, we're going to send you back to the lions with Steve.
Thanks, Clive. Well, we're with the Pride. Still making lots of noises. Trying to, I don't know exactly what they're doing. There's still a couple nibbling on some bits and pieces. I think some of the cubs are trying to access some milk. Although they are eating meat, they're still, some of them are still suckling. I haven't seen any suckling, but there's that noise of begging. Please, Mum, give me some milk. But I haven't seen any suckling. Oh, BK, here we go. Here we go, here we go. He's bringing us a present. There's a present for you. Look what I got. I got an impala leg in the open. You might hear the sound of another vehicle. We're not alone out here. Others have come to join us. How wonderful is that? My prize. So there's not much meat on an impala leg. If you can imagine. Oh, that's Purple Eye. Hello. Her limp seems to have disappeared. Last time we saw her, she was limping quite badly. Still favouring that back right leg a little bit. but she seems to be okay. Those of you who don't know who Purple Eye is, she's had an injury to her right eye, and it's caused the cornea to cover over with a purple sort of white sheen, more of an opal sort of color, and she's the oldest lioness standing in the pride. One of 4 lioness that had cubs, with Ridge-Nose having the 2 biggest boys. The one boy walked past us a moment ago, and BK actually was quite shocked at how big he's gotten, because we remember him when he was a little one in August. And they really have become little lions now. And then the others, Purple Eye, Amber Eyes, had 3 and 4 cubs. One of them went missing, and then Chella had, I think it was 3, 4. We only ever found her again with 1, and that little one is still here. But between the 2 lionesses, Purple Eye and Amber Eyes, it's very hard to tell whose cubs are whose at the moment. Steve, you want to know if cubs are old enough to be left on their own? Well, the adults will leave them, but what we've noticed and what's been happening, especially since Chella lost her cubs, is that cubs are making so much noise over there. What we've been noticing is that the pride is moving with them constantly. They're constantly moving. The pride moves, the cubs move, the pride moves, the cubs move. They're at that stage where they follow. So we're not seeing them leave them anymore. And it seems to be working quite well in their favor, because leaving cubs behind can often lead to unsuccessful survival rates. They're far safer in the protection of the pride, and they are demanding of meat. So it's just as well that they're nearby. I mean, on Christmas Eve, we had the entire pride go in, kill an impala, and the cubs that were so small rushed in to feed. And since then, they've basically been following each other around constantly. Apart from that time, last time I found them, we found the cubs first, and I thought, oh no, we're going to have to leave them because the adults aren't here. And then we found the adults 30, 40 meters away. So they're staying in very close proximity. And the cubs want their food machines, food providers near and close. They are hungry and growing. And very furry, isn't he? Look how furry he is. Welcome back to Djuma, hey BK? First the wild dogs, and now the Nkuhuma Pride welcoming me back. I'm very, very happy. I'm just going to keep quiet, and you can listen to the sounds. The lions are making some little noises. Furball coming. Almost. Slight breeze coming. See, this lioness here still got a fair bit of meat, it seems. She hasn't stopped eating. But we're going to stay here on the thickets of Djuma. We're going to ascend into the open plains of Ambionpinda.
Thank you, Steve. And as you can see, there's a big herd of wildebeest, a couple of zebras dotted out there as well. And we've got these giraffe off on the right, which we'll show you in a second. But the reason we actually stopped and looked on this side of the road was particularly for Nev, who is looking for some birds to add to the list. And there was a tiny little bird called a Zitting cisticola, which is a very small little brown bird, not the most interesting bird to look at, but pretty in its own way, and we get quite a few of them out in these open grasslands. It's the only place you find them. But of course, as birds go, they disappear as soon as you put the camera on them. But we thought we'd show you the zebra and wildebeest. If we see another one, we can go back. There's also a beautiful view of quite a few giraffe off on our right-hand side, which we'll show you. A little young one, but they're all taking this time to feed now. Look at that, some of them eating off of some of the higher up trees, some of them putting their head down and eating off the lower trees. Lemon lime, that's a very good question that probably doesn't have an exact answer to at all. But they, well, you know, there's so many trees that they will feed off of. And in an area like this, there's so much food. So they don't have to walk far. They're not hugely reliant on water either, so they don't have to go to water every day. Even though here there is water, remember where we were with those birds just now, that's just behind us, so there is some water around here. But they're not hugely reliant on that. They don't have to travel far to get food, and they just slowly walk and eat, and then walk a little bit more and eat a little bit more. So at a guess, they might cover a few kilometers in a day, maybe 2 kilometers or so. Not a huge amount. You can still see that little young one, especially how fluffy his horns still are. Well, I call them horns, but the actual name is ossicones, but so we're going to sit with these giraffe while they're just calmly sitting around here and eating, and send you back to those lions who are apparently in a bit of a frenzy.
Now that, everybody, thanks for coming back. That was the lioness that was eating the head. Stepped away from it. 3 of the cubs were standing by very close. And what you saw there now and heard there was cubs. No adults. Cubs. Quite incredible, isn't it? As they vied to get first place on the remainder of the head. 3 of them battled it out. The adults got a bit upset. There was some calling and moaning. It's gone on for about a minute. Quite incredible. Now the dominant individual sits with the remainder of the head. So when I said earlier about you have to be tough to be a lion, you have to be if you want to eat. Eating is king. Eating gives you strength and fitness. Inability to acquire food leads to weakness, illness and death. So that's why we talk about, I mean, those are cubs. They're not even a year old. Not even, they're probably close to a year now, those 2 boys. They were born in June, so I can't believe it's been a year. Where has the time gone? We're in July. My goodness. So those 2 boys got right involved there. And now you can imagine when the entire pride of cubs is at 1, 2 years old. They will be competing heavily with the adults, and that huge competition, as discussed before, will eventually lead certain lionesses with their cubs to break away due to just bad table manners. Mine, that's not even one of the big cubs. That's not even a year-old one. That's one of the guys that was born in August, September. Can you believe it? Well, I'm glad you got to catch the sounds. Wonderful sounds. GM, yes, exactly. You gush over how cute they are. It is quite something to behold, isn't it? And even at a young age, they are aggressive. They are aggressive, and they have to be. It is what stands them apart. To be a social cat, to be any cat really, aggression is key. And it sounds a lot worse than it really is, to be honest. There's a lot of noise and a lot of violence, pushing and shoving, but they're very tough animals, and you've seen all the scratches and scars on their faces today. It's part and parcel of being a lion. And I did ID kits for Pride of Lions years ago that had 9 sub-adult boys. And weekly, we had to reevaluate those ID kits because their faces and ears kept changing. Okay, well, we're going to stay here with our lions, maybe get into another position and send you back over to everyone's favorite, the meerkats.
So the little meerkats have just come out, literally about 2 minutes ago. They popped out. It's a bit cooler than a bit warmer, in fact, than it was yesterday. There still is a breeze, but it's not as strong as it was. So they're probably going to want to get a little bit more foraging time in. Interestingly, and we'll show you a little bit later, there's been a lot of digging activity of the meerkats in the close proximity to this burrow system. So I think they are under a bit of pressure due to this cold snap. I did mention earlier the forecast for the real field temperature for Wednesday. It goes down to -9, -10. The coldest I've experienced on Swallow in 15 years is -9. So -3, -4, kind of like, it's not uncommon to get that in the winter months. But going down to -9 is going to be exceptional. That can change. So let's see. But these little guys here are going to be under a huge amount of pressure. This little alpha female that Jandre's got in frame at the moment, she's going to be working overtime to make sure that those pups are okay. So we must just hold thumbs and hope. And we've come so far on this journey with this group over the past 3.5, almost 4 weeks now. But let's hold thumbs and hope that it's all going to be good and well at the end of it. Again, these cold temperatures, I mean, that's going to be exceptionally cold. But this is the Kalahari. We're prone to these kind of conditions out here. Anushka says, yeah, no, it is. It's going to be like cold. But we'll make the most of it. And I'm just really hoping that we have no signal issues or anything, because if you can be with us on that morning, it is going to be exceptionally beautiful, I think. So I think it'll be really, really worth lying in bed with a hot cup of coffee or something when we're out. Those meerkats are watching something. It's like I say, Kathy has just asked, so how do the meerkats keep warm in those kind of conditions? I mean, have they got any kind of special thing that they do? Unfortunately not. They've got no special adaptation per se, or as such that enables them to keep warmer than normal in those kind of conditions. But what they will do is they'll just change their behavior. So on temperatures like that, it's unlikely that these meerkats are going to be coming out anytime during the course of the day, particularly so if the wind is blowing. I think it said that temperature is going to be at like 6 or 7 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, it's still going to be -4, something crazy. Anyway, it's going to be super cold. If there's a wind blowing, these meerkats are going to do what they did the other day and just like stick their head up and go down, stick their head up and go down. Down these burrows, you've got 6 big meerkats, or let's say adults and young adults, plus a whole lot of little ones. We don't know how many pups there are yet, but they're going to be huddled in a ball. They're going to be warm and toasty downstairs. So they'd actually be using less energy by not going out foraging than they would if they had to actually like try go out and find something to eat. You know, hunger is one thing. Being hungry is nothing. Losing energy is a completely different ballgame there. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to have to worry too much as long as that cold snap isn't extended. And that's, I think, the thing that's concerning me a little bit is that, you know, we've already gone through 2-3 days of this. And if it progresses past Wednesday, Thursday, it'll present some challenges for these little guys. But let's see. You know, they wouldn't be here if they weren't adapted to these kind of events. And, you know, worst case scenario, if they do lose a litter of pups, you know, it'll be very, very sad. But it's not the end of the world for them. You know, she'll breed again in a couple of weeks after that anyway. So let's just hold thumbs and hope for the best. And same for the Shelby family, your old Shelley and Sheldon, with their chicks, their eggs, they'll be downstairs in a nice warm burrow tucked in there. Again, I don't think there should be a big problem, but let's wait and see.
We're here at Chitwood Dam, and there seems to be a little youngster amongst our hippos here. Hello, little one. I think you've seen this youngster before. It's the first time I'm seeing it. Chitwa. Hanging around with the big adults must be feeling so great and safe. Always love that feeling of warmth that I'm sure that all youngsters feel when in the company of their family, and they feel safe and secure. The little one is by far the most active in the bunch at the moment. It's very quiet out here at Chitwa. You can hear the Egyptian geese. Mom, you're absolutely right. You say the hippos look cold? You didn't even know they could look cold. I was thinking the same thing. Not they're staying so still. I think they're trying to figure out, you know, sometimes when you're really cold, like when you get into bed and it's really cold and you're like, if I just sit here for long enough, it's going to warm up. I feel like that's the way they look at the moment. They do look a little bit cold. We have some lovely swallows all around, kind of just ahead of us. They look like pearl-breasted swallows just down here. This is going to be a challenge, trying to follow them. I think they're actually perched there now, trying to get some sun. Now, barn swallow also has a white breast, but they have a slight patch of brown just at their neck, and these ones look like they have full white, just as one literally came over my head as I was saying to you. Looks like it has full white, and I got a great view. It's nice to see them perched. Normally we see swallows moving around quite frantically. Really nice to see them enjoying some sun, much like myself. Kim, you'd like to know, what do you call barn swallows that are not actually near any barns? I feel like this is potential for a dad joke. But but I'm sure that it is not. In fact, if you can find a dad joke to it, I would love to know it. It's sometimes called European swallows. But for me, that is not dad jokey enough. Oh, what do you call a barn swallow that's not near a barn? Hard to swallow. That didn't even make sense. It felt like it flowed, though. Thank you, Emma. Emma says, while I reflect on what I've just done, I should send you over to Mike. Well, off you go and I will reflect.
So I don't think the white-backed vulture that we've seen is enjoying the dad jokes this morning. Maybe a bit too cold. I'm sure its sense of humor will come back as it gets warmer. So yes, this is a white-backed vulture sitting on its nest high up in a knobthorn tree, safe from any predators, but also hopefully keeping its eggs nice and warm, if there are eggs up there. I'm sure there are. Welcome everyone, welcome to Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy. I'm Mike Anderson, and behind the camera is Gert, and we have been also enjoying the nice chilly but crisp and clear morning this winter's day. And we're actually on the hunt for some elephants. We heard that there were some elephants down here, and we've been trying to find them, tracks and signs everywhere, but they are just eluding us at the moment, hiding probably in some of these thickets, trying to get some of that warmer temperatures on this sunny hillsides on the eastern facing slopes. But as we were driving along, I remembered that there was a vulture's nest in this area, so we came here to have a look if it was sitting on the nest, and we found it, which is super great. It's actually the first vulture's nest I've seen on Pridelands that's active. We've seen lots of them. This is a nice active one, and we've seen the vultures wheeling around here. We're not so far from the Drakensberg Mountains, and there's a whole colony of Cape vultures, which are very rare up there. So we see them leaving the mountain and coming over Pridelands quite regularly. It's nice to see that a white-backed vulture has decided to make its nest here, often on the banks of rivers as well. Andrea says it's super to see a vulture on a nest. It is super to see them on the nest. They're not so often that we do see them on the nests, because usually, Andrea, the nests are in the well-vegetated trees along the banks of rivers, like the Timbavati River, not so far from where Djuma is. And so actually the Timbavati is also running straight through Ngala, so you might see a few vultures there. But usually on the very well-vegetated trees, tall jackalberries and things. And this is a very sparse knobthorn, which is showing off very nicely this vulture's nest. It's quite a good spot, actually. It's quite an open area, so, you know, when it does warm up, there'll be nice updrafts of warm air as it warms up the bare earth around here. And this vulture will be able to quickly fly off and gain altitude or height without having to use too much energy, because, of course, it is a very big bird. And the largest birds, and this, I mean, it's one of the largest flighted birds that we get around this area, and it takes a lot of energy. And you know, vultures only really eat carcasses when they can find them, so it might be many days between meals for this vulture. So it's going to conserve its energy until it absolutely can. See how it's doing? It's looking around at the moment. They've got amazing eyesight. You know, some papers suggest that up to 4 times more accurate their vision than ours as humans, which is amazing, and you can imagine how good their eyes are. Right, whilst we see what this vulture is going to do as it warms up, we're going to send you over to Clive.
Well, we have lots and lots of birds here. There's a beautiful little patch of water, which are actually, it's honestly one of the first times I've come here. It's very close to our boundary, and often for the first couple of years that I worked here, there was actually no water here. South Africa was in quite a big drought, So it's probably only about a year or so that there has been water here, but it's just such a nice little spot. Now this big white bird that we have in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen is called a great egret. And then you'll see a little bit to the right, you'll have to move the camera to the right a bit, Marcel. There's another white bird on the edge there on the bottom right of the screen, which is a little egret. You can see there's quite a big size difference between the two. Then there's lots of birds flying around kind of in the distance. Between them there's a little black bird which is called a black sawwing. It's very hard to focus on just him, but you'll see them flying past the screen every now and then. There's one flying in the middle now. Oh yeah, it's very hard to concentrate on one. And then there's others that are flying around with those blackbirds called banded martins, which have got a bit of white on their chest. You might also just see a few little peeks at them every now and then. What a beautiful spot here, though. There were some reed cormorants swimming around in the water just now. Not sure where they've disappeared to, but as soon as they pop out again, we'll show you. And then those birds calling about 10 seconds ago that you heard were pied kingfishers, which also, if they come out, we'll show you. Are you looking on that concrete thing, or where are you looking? Yes, what has Marcel found on the camera there?
In the shadow, it looked bluish.
Oh yes, that's the great egret. It just flew across that side of the water. Beautiful, quiet scene here, though. I can't believe where the reed cormorants have gone. There were 3 or 4 swimming around while we were while you were watching the meerkats and the, I think it was hyenas, if I remember right. There were so many swimming around, and now as soon as as soon as we bring the camera here, all of a sudden they disappear. Typical birds. There's the pied kingfisher. Marcel, if you look at that like broken piece of bridge there sitting on the end. GM, yes, the pied kingfisher eats lots and lots of fish. They'll probably eat other things as well. Maybe, well, definitely tadpoles before they turn into frogs. But yes, most of their diet is fish. So, but even fish eagles, I mean, most of their diet again is fish. There are a few other things that the fish eagles might eat, but most of the time it'll be fish. You can imagine how these reeds along the edge of the water are just home to so many different birds, and not only birds, even small fish will take refuge in the reeds. I suppose where that great egret was sitting in the reeds, it'll be hunting little fish that are hiding in there. Just so much life around this one little patch of water. Now this is actually a river. This is part of a river that flows through the reserve. But it's a seasonal river, so it doesn't always get water in it. Oh, look at that egret flying, sure. It doesn't always get water in it. But when it does, the water tends to stick around for quite a while. Sorry, the last one I want to show you quickly. See all those birds that have landed on the top of the grass on the right-hand side. It's quite a good view of the banded martins. They seem to have landed on the grass. So we'll show you those quickly. You can maybe see that there's quite a bit of white on the front. I don't know if it'll be close enough to see the broad dark band along their chest, but these are called banded martins. Very much like swallows. All right, well, we're going to carry on with our drive, and in the meantime, we'll send you back to Mike.
So everyone, welcome back. We're watching this this vulture sitting on this beautiful nest, nice and wide open spaces. So this vulture's just sitting on this nest. You can see it's nice and wide, these open spaces here, which I was saying before. So it's going to, use these warm updrafts. As the sun gets a bit higher, it's still very, very low on the horizon. As the sun gets a bit higher, it will start to create these thermal winds, and that's when you see those vultures wheeling around. And earlier on, we saw this vulture look across us and wondered if maybe it was seeing something. That's how vultures often find their food. They don't use their sense of smell. A lot of vultures in the Americas, like turkey buzzards, for example, they do use their sense of smell. But this vulture, and the white-backed vulture, is mostly using its eyesight. I'm sure it can smell things. If there's a really big carcass that's really smelly and it flies directly over it, it probably would be able to smell it, to be honest. But usually using their eyesight. And what's incredible is that they can see about 4 times better than us. So when they see one vulture doing something interesting far in the distance, they'll often start to fly over there just to investigate. And of course they use those thermal winds to gain a lot of height. I think there was something I read somewhere about the Ruppel's griffin vulture in East Africa, which flies 10,000 feet or higher in the air. As high as a plane sometimes flies. Just incredible. And from up there they can see a long distance if it's a clear day and spot any other vultures that are moving around and go and investigate what they've got. Now the reason why I say that there's maybe even can smell things is because another one of our instructors said that there was I don't know what it was, I can't remember, a klipspringer or something had been caught by something or fell down, and it was, died inside a big rocky outcrop, quite deep inside a big crack. And regardless of whether they could see it or not, the vultures certainly could smell it, because they started landing all over these rocks to investigate what the smell was, which is quite interesting. We don't often think of them as using their sense of smell, but that shows that they probably can. There was nothing else indicating that there was a carcass there. You can see the wind is still blowing quite strongly. You can see those feathers just ruffling at the back of its wings there. So it's just huddled down. You see it's even pulled its neck in, which of course isn't covered in very many feathers. It would be quite awkward if a vulture had lots of feathers on its neck, because it has to stick its head right deep inside the carcasses in order to get to the food. Sorry about that. Just a little bit of communications issues. But yeah, so they don't have feathers on their necks, so that they don't have to clean themselves as much. Imagine if all those feathers got all gunky with the blood and the guts from inside the carcasses of which they eat. Oh, maybe the eggs are rolling around underneath her. Christy's asking a very interesting question. What predators do vultures have? Now, Christy, that is a good question, because, in fact, at Ngala, there was a leopard which was well known for climbing up into the nests of these vultures on the banks of the Timbavati and other rivers around there, and actually plucking out the chicks from the nests. So that is something, I suppose. Maybe snakes as well, large snakes, monitor lizards also. Large monitors might climb up. Apparently you saw the Makoti male about 2 weeks ago. So that leopard is named specifically because of that behavior of climbing up into the trees and eating the vultures. So, snakes that eat eggs and youngsters will climb up there and catch them. The monitor lizards might climb up and pluck the eggs and the chicks as well. And so quite a few predators from the baby vultures. But once they're adults, not much is really going to catch them, because they spend a lot of time wheeling through the sky or in big groups at carcasses. I suppose maybe like a hyena might try and catch one, or a lioness, or even a leopard at a carcass, if they were bothering them. I don't think they would catch it for food specifically, but, if they're causing trouble, they'll catch them. I did actually, oh, this is actually really cool. I saw once coming up to a dam, and there were a whole bunch of vultures, sunning themselves after having, I assume, having a bathe. And because of being at a carcass, they were bathing themselves, a nice sunny morning. And one vulture was still bathing, I thought, in the water. And as I got closer to the water's edge, I realized it wasn't bathing. It was actually caught by a crocodile, small crocodile. And it was busy flapping its wings, trying to escape from this crocodile. It was not successful. It did not last very long before the crocodile dragged it into the water and was gone from our vision. It was drowned and then probably eaten. It was actually an incredible sighting. I'd never seen it before. We don't often think of crocodiles catching birds, but they certainly can. So we're going to probably head off now. You see this vulture's put its head down in its nest, probably trying to shield itself from this nice cold wind. And we're probably just going to head off and see what else we can find.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
So in the distance there's a little herd of springbuck that have been slowly moving from the right across to the left-hand side. And we always like keeping tabs on things like that because you never know when you get something else popping out, like cheetah, for instance. And these dune crests are very, very, very good spots for cheetah to hunt along. So you'll often get them using these high areas as vantage points. There's also, Jandre, I don't know if you can see them, but panning right across to the left-hand side, they might actually just be out of frame, so we're not going to worry too much about it. There's a herd of hartebeest. I don't know if you can see those, Jandre. Okay, so we're not going to worry about, they're actually moving towards the springbuck. Excuse me. So I think in a minute or maybe 5 minutes, maybe when we come back again, those hartebeest will actually be visible. But it just shows, and this is all from the field of view where we're sitting with the meerkats over here. So there's actually a lot going on out here this morning, which is really, really nice to see. We haven't seen any obvious signs of predators around the burrow over here. There haven't been hyenas walking around here last night. I'm not seeing any obvious sign of jackal. Not that a hyena would be a threat to the meerkats. It's just more out of interest for our own tracking interest. Captain has asked, how deep will meerkats dig down? So these burrows, they actually don't extend very deeply underground, but they can be quite extensive in terms of the actual network. Normally, you're looking at about 50 centimeters to a meter at the most. And because they're small little animals, they would expend a huge amount of energy if they were trying to tunnel deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And we've chatted about it briefly before. In terms of thermoregulation properties of the sand, once you get past 30 to 40 centimeters, it becomes very, very stable summer and winter. So I'm not saying it's warm, but there's a nice comfortable range. Now in winter, you're probably looking at 17 to 22 degrees, give or take, past that depth there. So, it's a very stable environment, and there's no point in going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in terms of the amount of energy that you're using to actually try and maintain those tunnels. Because once you've dug it, you need to maintain it. So the deeper it goes, the more work that is, and the more time you've got to spend doing that, and less time foraging, babysitting, that kind of stuff. So, these burrows are not particularly deep, but they can be quite a lattice work underground. And although not all of them are connected, many of them are. Can you see those hartebeest now? Jandre, you got them? I think they're out in the open there now. Sure. From this angle, they look almost black. They look very, very, very dark. That is just because the sun is on the other side there. So they're actually just throwing the side of the body into the shade. But they're actually a lovely, rich, red, orangey color. That's a really, really, really nice sighting. These species are really well adapted to these semi-arid areas. The springbuck, the hartebeest. Yeah, and it's just good to see them like this. So to give you some idea of the distance that we're sitting at there now, that is about 800 meters, give or take. So they are completely unconcerned with our presence. They're not even looking in our direction here. And the meerkats actually were watching there earlier as well. So the meerkats are aware those animals on the horizon there, but no problem with them. Yeah, just for a moment I thought I saw there were two cheetahs sitting up on the dune, but it's not. Bushes like that was, you know, it looked from the angle, it looked like cheetah, but it's definitely not. So one of the interesting things, the thing raised quite frequently is Anna Marie says these are beautiful, and you're totally right, Anna Marie. They are gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous animals, and not just the animals, but the entire setting. You know, this big sweeping vista across here. You know, the dune in the distance over there, these trees in the foreground. It just really lends itself to art, and yeah, it's a beautiful landscape. So sure. And yeah, I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. It is a real pleasure from my side, and I speak, I'm sure all of our colleagues on the Lowveld are all saying the same thing. It's a pleasure being able to share these kind of environments with you, wherever you are in the world, because it's, you know, we are privileged to be here on the ground seeing this, but it's just such a special thing to be able to share this with everyone. So I'm glad you're enjoying it as much as we do.
Welcome back, everybody. This lioness would like a toothpick, please. She has managed to capitalize on the skull that was dropped off by the cub, and everybody's wanted to have an attempt at it, and she's been very unwilling to share. Now, we spoke earlier about how much of the animal will get eaten. Now, what you can mainly see there, that white, is the vertebrae that would attach to the back of the head, and that sort of brain casing, or should I say the skull casing, that attaches to the horns. That's all that's left around this. All the other softer, brittle bone has been broken and eaten. Brains and tongue and all the skin, everything on the face gone. So that's all you will find left behind, is the stomach content and a set of horns. Obviously, the bigger the animal is, okay, she's done with it. No more to be had. Now, I've no doubt someone will come and investigate. Two very interested looking cubs looking at this. This is one of the younger lionesses. The pale eyes. One of those cubs is going to be like, ooh, did you leave the horns in the long grass? Who's going to come and find it, I wonder? I think this is them for the morning. In the shade. Got our SABC show this afternoon. Here we go. Here we go. We've got two onto who's going to find it first. Yes, little one did. Mine. All armor, the horns do look quite dangerous, don't they? Thankfully, the impala don't really know how to use them to defend themselves against lions. I think it would be futile in any event. A big male impala weighing 65 kilograms, 130 pounds. One of these lionesses weighs double that. Just one. And she comes with tooth and claw. And the cub's just won the jackpot, it thinks. They'll pass on these little bones. You often find the Unkuhumas with their tortoise that they play with for a long time and then pass it on to the next one. Trying to lick the bones, get all the meat off. If any of you've got a dog, then you'll know what sometimes dogs can be like when they've got a bone. That's theirs. No one interferes with that bone. It's theirs. And lions have the same thing. Once they've gone through that little dominant sort of aggressive moment like we had before when those cubs are fighting over that skull, the one then that has it is the one that keeps it. There's no one will be aggressive towards them, try to steal it. If anyone approaches an animal that's got a bone or a leg or a body part that's busy eating, there'll just be like a low growl, and that'll be the end of it. There won't be any aggression, but it was because that lioness stood up and relinquished that skull that the 3 youngsters pounced on it. They were waiting for that moment, and it was the first one to get there who was more physical, that dominated. And then once that was done, see, here we go. This one's interested. Let's see what happens. See, the little one was growling there, just saying, it's mine. And they listen. They go, okay, you growled at me. I'm going to stare at you, though, while you eat it. They're so funny, aren't they? So we're hoping to catch up with these lions again this afternoon on the SABC, but I think that they are going to be done for now. So I did promise to do some medicinals. There is another vehicle on the way into the sighting, so I'm almost certain the lions are going to be here in the same spot. So we're going to move out, make some space, try and figure out exactly where we are in the block. We're not far from Gallagher Road itself. And while we head on out, we're going to send you back over to those cute bundles of joy in the Kalahari.
So again, these meerkats, Genre and I are really hoping that with these like slightly warmer temperature now, and we know these pups are like, they are there. I know I've been saying this for the past 4 weeks now, almost 4 weeks. Oh, they're going to be out like anytime soon, but they are close. I promise you, they are close. These ones keep on looking down, and you'll see every now and again they're going to look down. So those pups are right at the entrance there somewhere, and you know the temptation is to go walk up to the edge of the burrow and have a look, or take the camera there. We're not going to do that. I don't want to impact on these animals' behavior in any way whatsoever. They're doing what meerkats do, even if we weren't here. So you know, I can't afford to compromise on that. So we'll just stick with our guns, and at some point they will come out. They will come out, and I'm hoping in the next hour would be a good time if they could. Come on, meerkats, you can do this. You can do this. Don't let us down. But they keep looking down there, so yeah, those pups have got to be very, very, very close to the entrance. And they should be either born on the 18th of June is what we figured out. Shindy has just asked a nice question in terms of the social structure of the groups. And the question is, what is the average size group of meerkats? And do you ever get breakaways from the groups? Absolutely. You do get breakaways. What we tend to find here at Swallow, now I'm talking Swallow specific, our average group size is 6, 7, 8. We've had groups going over 20 before, but it's not often that you see groups that size. I don't put a huge amount of faith in, when I talk about a group size, I'm not referring to tiny little pups, because until they've reached like probably 7, 8 months old, when they're becoming a real functional part of the group, anything can happen to those, and they are heavily dependent on the rest of the group. So I'm just talking about adults and sub-adult meerkats. So 6, 7, 8 is kind of the average here. We've got groups that are larger than that at the moment, and the largest group that I know of on Swallow is about 22. Meerkat groups can get to over 40 individuals in other areas that have been studied. But what you tend to find is the larger the group size, the greater the likelihood is of them splitting off and moving. And there's various pressures that will result in that. It can be feeding pressure in the area. In other words, are they able to get enough food? It can be internal pressure with the group in terms of social pressures. The dominant animals in the group starting to put pressure on those youngsters, especially young males, to disperse. But you definitely get large group sizes, but the ones on Swallow are typically smaller group sizes like we're seeing here, and you definitely get dispersal away from these their natal areas. And those dispersal animals are obviously very, very important for adding genetic diversity to the groups surrounding the colony that they originate from. Because they will actually, those youngsters can either join up, so if you get dispersal males and females, they can join up and form their own groups with ones that are dispersed from other ones. But you can also get males, and we saw that with that other group of meerkats, the Khosas. Remember, this group is called the rock stars. The previous group that we were following, just that initially started out as 6, and then the badger kind of like whittled them away a little bit. That was called the Khosas, and there was one meerkat that kept on kind of trying to join that group repeatedly. This like funny little pug face. Yeah. So these dispersal animals can actually rock up anywhere. This little guy's popped out right in front of me here. Hey, little guys. Yes, they are sweet animals, eh? My goodness. Are you hungry this morning? Yeah. Shame, you guys have had a rough couple of days with this temperature, eh? Yeah. Those of you who were with us with that yellow mongoose the other day at the dam, that was a lovely sighting that we had. But you can see exactly how that mongoose sat up at one stage. As you may recall, it sat straight up, balancing itself on its tail with its hands, its paws forward like that. Exactly the same as what we see the meerkats do. Yeah, I think they are hungry, eh? This little one's starting to move out and actually starting to dig and forage out. It's just behind the bush from the camera, but it's very, very close to me now. It's about 4 yards away. Yeah.
We've decided to come down towards this nice big water hole to see if we can see any action that's unfolded around here. And a little bit earlier on, we managed to see some leopard tracks. We went down and checked the riverbed. We couldn't really find where the tracks were going, so we just decided to come quickly to have a look at this water hole. And so far we've seen some wildebeest who've just gone out of shot. There's an impala, a single lone impala that is drinking quite far away. You'll see them there. So that's it. Again, quite unusual just to see one by itself. But if you look at the horns over there, he's a young male. So he could have been displaced by one of the dominant rams. But one of the things that we decided to sit back and wait for is a little bit further away from the waterhole. We managed to see this nice, what looks like quite a nice big herd of elephants that is threatening coming down to drink. And they don't seem to be in any particular rush, but they are very slowly making their way down here. So they're probably just getting their morning feed before they come down for a drink. So there's at least 4 or 5 of them that I can see, some really nice ones in the distance over there. Looks like there's a mother with an older calf standing next to it. And then there's a few other individuals that are a bit out of frame and we can't see them quite yet. But hopefully within the next 10-15 minutes or so, they might come down and have something to drink. One of my favorite things to do is watch elephants and the excitement that builds up with them as they start coming down to a water hole. And inevitably one of the youngsters is going to run straight down towards the water. And I love the way how they shake their heads from side to side as they're running down to try and get their first drink. And just look at the water and how disturbed it is. So the wind is starting to pick up quite a lot. It started off being very, very still this morning, but we're getting quite a constant wind coming from essentially the north, blowing south. It looks like we've got a family of spurfowl's own quite close to us on the left-hand side that is drinking. they're running away from the water, as I spoke about them, unfortunately. But they obviously felt quite nervous. Maybe the wind is just freaking them out a bit, but they are out in the open, and so if there's any small bird of prey around, they're a prime target, and so they'll run in, have a quick little drink, and then dart back into some cover. Every now and again we're just seeing the head of a single hippo pick up. David, the water to me doesn't look as calming as you think it looks like. It looks quite choppy, and so it's not that beautiful glass with a reflection that I would call calming. But I suppose if you follow the waves, it might be a little bit soothing for you to watch. These elephants, I think, they're in no rush. Because of this wind, it's keeping them nice and cool, so they don't feel like they need to come and replenish any liquids that they're losing. And so I think they're just taking a nice, slow time to feed around the bushes around here. So these elephants, I mean, you can just see they're slowly but surely starting to move closer towards us. Owen and I aren't going to go anywhere. We'll give it 10-15 minutes before we decide to move off. But it sounds like Steve has got a different lion for him to show you.
Well, we actually didn't go anywhere. We parked here, and I had a little look through my binoculars because I saw something that didn't look like a blade of grass, and it was a male lion. It looks like Mohawk to me. When last did we see Mohawk the Avoca male? Definitely Mohawk, with that way the hair is growing and the way he's looking at us. Like, who are you guys? What are you doing over here? It's been ages since you've seen Mohawk. It really has. And now, if there was a male impala and Mohawk was on the scene, I don't know how much of the meat he allowed them to have, because when he was involved in the kill we saw with the cubs and the lionesses on Christmas Eve, he took the lion's share, as is his wont. When you're a big male lion, you do what you want to. So basically I saw that from the side, that little tuft of hair, and I thought to myself, what on earth is that? It wasn't moving. I looked through my binoculars and I was pleasantly surprised to find a male lion. The pride themselves are all scattered amongst the long grass in front of us, and we can't... Oh, another male. Hey, there's another male lion leaping. What a... Oh, he's limping. There's that dark man. There's a blondie, but he's limping. BK reckons it's blondie. I suppose they both had limps last time we saw them. Hello, boys. I'm just going to update on the radio because this is very interesting for others. And the nice vulture coming here, Beaks. Just an update. Second male lion joining the Luck. 2 male lions and the Umkuma Pride. Who is that? That's a wonderful bird. Yes, it is a white-back vulture and is searching for some food. You're not going to find anything here, my friend. Is it a whiteback? Oh my word, that is a tawny eagle. I should have used my binoculars. It's a tawny eagle. They are masters of finding carcasses. Masters of it. So pretty, just gliding along, and it's going to go straight down. Look at that, into the tree. Now, how does it know that there is something there? There must be some UV signature that's given off by the blood on the floor that's able to pick up on. They've proven with black-shouldered kites and kestrels that they actually are able to hover, black-shouldered kites anyway, hover over rodent burrows, and they're able to, with the UV signature in their eyesight, see the fresh urine that is deposited by shrews and rodents, and then they hover above those really fresh patches, and then when that animal moves, they just flop down and catch them. So it's almost like Predator, the movie, except Predator in real life. I think that's incredible. Okay, that is... Come and say hello, boy. Yes, I'm going to come and say hi. I don't think that they were involved in the kill because, well, they would have been right there. The kill happened where the stomach is, and you're looking about 50 meters from the kill that the one male lion is lying at. It's possible that the two of them have been following since, and he just materialized while we've been sitting here, because now that the second one's arrived, they've been tracking them by smell. You missed all the action, boys. The lionesses are quite happy. The lionesses are quite happy they missed, because they're struggling as it is with their sons. He's just about to come out there. He's looking at us very dubiously. Mohawks always had a little bit of a skittish look, everybody. Such loud noises for such little boys. Excuse me while I just talk on the radio quickly. I think the gentleman who was trying to join us has followed the vehicle that was leaving. Fanuel, I think you've crossed the drainage. We're still where we last saw you. You need to come back south and east from where you are.
Copy that, Steve. I'm trying to get out here. It's too big.
Let us reposition so we can show you that male. A very impressive boy, Mohawk. The Mohawk and Blondie seem to be hanging out with each other a lot. And Darkbane seems to be spending all of his time with the Talamati pride. Well, actually, that's all right, BK? Oh, just there, that's no lions in the long grass anymore. Simi, I love that sound. I absolutely love that sound. The first time you hear it, yes, it is quite frightening. And it's supposed to have an intimidation aspect to it. A lot of, you've heard the term, a dog's bark is worse than its bite. A lot of noises that animals make are supposed to be loud and scary so that they can prevent another animal from wanting to interact anymore. And the fighting sounds and noises that lions make, I think a lot of it is more show than it is actual physicality. But when you do, see, have a look at this, BK. Sorry, now there's 2 more tawny eagles coming in. There's a total of 4 tawny eagles that are here. How quickly did they find this? They're doing some diving, doing some play. 4 tawny eagles in this matter of minutes. 1 found it, and the others are here. So lions, when they do get very physical, even males when they're competing over females, it sounds unbelievably violent. But in fact, there's not a huge amount of violence in it. There's a bit of a dominance in there, and the same as when they did what you saw just now, that sort of, this is my meat. There's a lot of noise that goes on. It's like, hey, I will hurt you if you cross my line, that sort of thing. But yes, it is a sound that makes you wake up very quickly, and it gets their attention, and it probably scares the life out of hyenas. Definitely. Nice work, BK. Wonderful tawny eagles. Very, very useful when it comes to finding a carcass. Okay, well, we anticipated these lions going for a drink, but I don't think they will be just now. But it sounds like Anbion and Ngala's elephants are doing just that.
We certainly have been chilling by the waterhole, waiting for exactly this elephant coming down to drink. And this is the second one of the herd actually. The other one is already starting to move away. This one in frame, if you just look at the size of it, it's really big compared to the one on the left hand side over there. And so what we might have actually seen is not a herd of elephants, but rather two elephant bulls of different sizes. I thought the bigger one on the right hand side might have been an adult female, and the one on the left, who is a young elephant bull, might have been an older calf. But I think both of them look like males, and we haven't seen any more. Well, they might still be coming, but the 5 or 6 elephants that I thought I saw might have only just been 2. But it is always awesome to watch elephants around a waterhole and how they drink. And how much they miss. I mean, lots of it gets spilt once they suck up a big trunk full of water like that. But watch as he drinks. I mean, he doesn't drink right at the surface. He pushes his trunk out as far as he can get to. And so with this wind, I'm sure there'll be quite a lot of debris at the very edge of his, I guess, that bay where his front left and his back left foot is. And so if he were to slurp up the water from there, he'll get probably a bit of algae, some mud, maybe even some dung in the water that he's wanting to drink. So he's trying to get the cleanest water possible. And that's why he stretches his trunk as far into the waterhole as he possibly can. And sometimes if the day was a little bit stiller, he would actually flick the trunk from side to side to try and get rid of as much surface debris as he possibly could. You see, now that is, I think, probably his 7th or 8th drink that he's had. And if that trunk, I mean, it can apparently hold between 8 and 10 liters for a big elephant bull like that. But I'm sure a couple of liters would have been spilt every time he drinks. And so he could have possibly, within the few minutes of us watching him, had somewhere close to 60 or 65 liters of water. Amazing to think how quickly they can drink like that. And see, he seems... Zald is definitely a thirsty elephant. And I suppose, I wonder, because they have to shift their diet at this time of year from, in the summertime when they're eating this lush, nutrient-rich grass, they're now having to eat things like bark and roots and leaves. And that could cause, with the extra tannin in all of those things, especially in the leaves and in the bark, it would probably cause their mouths to dry out a lot quicker. Which means that they'll have to come and have something to drink and try and quench their thirsts. Just notice this one's tusks, though. It seems like, I think he's only got one tusk. I can only see one. And I mean, for the size of the elephant that he is, that tusk is very, very short. The one on the right-hand side. Is that it? No, that's his ear on the other side there. Now he's turning. Let's see. Still no tusk. It's very interesting. I mean, I wonder if the tusks at some point have broken off. The one on the left-hand side looks like it could have broken off a long time ago and it's just sharpened. Yeah, he definitely doesn't have 2 tusks, just the one. I don't know what he's doing now. He's paused with a trunk full of water, but he's not drinking. You can just see all of it dripping down the side of his face. He might have just taken a moment to stop and sniff and smell, maybe listen around. If you watch that trunk, you see it might just twist from side to side slightly, so you could have smelt something upwind of him maybe. making sure there's no surface debris before he takes another big chug of water. Yeah, Andrea, I think you're right. I think it must have broken off somehow. The one on his right hand side, it definitely looks like it's broken off, and it's very, very, very round. It's not pointy at all. The one on the left, though, looks like it's broken. I mean, I can't see anything, so maybe it broke off right at the root at some point in his life. Yeah, look at his back leg, crossed over like that. That's really cool. Reminds me of Owen sitting in the back seat with his legs crossed having a sip of coffee. What happened? I wonder how much, because these elephants, especially at this time of year, depend a lot on a nice sharp tusk to break into the branches and strip some bark off of the trees. So I wonder how much that hinders his ability to do so with only having one and it being so blunt. I suppose that also shows us how long he hasn't had another tusk for. So he's constantly using that same one, and that must be why it's so rounded at the tip, because he's using it for absolutely everything that he can. And so with that extra use, it's probably just rounding it off. I'd love to see the younger one. I mean, he might have slightly better tusks that are in better condition. So, I mean, this older one could wait for the younger one to strip the bark and then maybe just use his weight to push the younger one off. Hey, there is another elephant coming, so that's 3 elephants. See on the left there, Owen? Now this one looks like its tusks are much, much, much better. Yeah, so it seems like these elephants might stick around for a little bit longer. I think we'll wait for them to move off before we carry on. But I think Mike has got an interesting tree he would like to show you.
I am investigating some trees, actually, and I know you were looking at elephants with Eric a moment ago, and as we were driving through here, we spotted a tree which is actually really cool. I'm sure you've seen knob thorns before, but I don't know if you've seen a knob thorn which is this knobbly. This is quite an aggressive one, and these knobs on the knob thorn are actually super important to the knob thorn because they do protect it from animals like elephants, or they're supposed to protect them from animals like elephants. We see they're not always very effective, but I don't know if you can see this one particular knob on this knob thorn. This one particular knob here has got a very, very sharp spike on the end, and many of them actually do have the spikes, and this is what stops the elephants, or should stop the elephants, from trying to break down these trees, because often elephants want to push the trees down or grab the bark, and as they do so, they push up against these very sharp thorns, and it's very uncomfortable. So this one is a very well protected knob thorn. It probably won't get destroyed by the elephants. I'm trying to see if there's one around here. There's lots of knob thorns. In fact, this one right behind is also a knob thorn, but it hasn't got as many knobs. So you might find that this one starts to get attacked by elephants before this better defended one. Now, as this particular knob thorn gets larger, it will have less of these knobs. It will put more energy into growing up taller, and the big, thick trunk will have less of the knobs. But that's not all the knobs are good for. There's other uses of these knobs, which is actually really, really interesting. If I can try, I don't want to reduce this knob thorn's chance of protecting itself, but if I can find maybe a smaller knob. No, they're very stuck on your head. This is an aggressive knob thorn. But if you can break one of these knobs off, what you can do is you grind up the powder. And if you've got a nosebleed, you know, sometimes it happens that you get a bit of a nosebleed. If you snuff up the powder, it's supposed to be really good at blocking the nose, stopping it from bleeding, which is really interesting. or you could just stick it up your nose. I mean, that'll also work, I suppose. Probably a lot easier. but yeah, be careful not to stick one with one of the spikes on. That's not going to be very comfortable at all. But yeah, so it's definitely well used, and you can also grind up the knob thorns and even the smoke. Like a little bit of the smoke inhaled is supposed to also stop with the nasal sort of complaints. If you've got maybe a blood nose or a headache or something like that, it's also supposed to help. I don't know how effective it is. We know that many animals will actually... I wonder if this will actually be quite comfortable to push on. Some of these don't have a bump on it, like a massage. But you can see not only is this knob thorn well protected from elephants, it's also covered in little bits of these green things. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. It's very small. But there's this green sort of moldy looking stuff. Now that's not mold. That's something called lichen, which is actually a combination of two different organisms. I wonder if any of you have seen this before and know what those two organisms are. Two very, very important organisms that have a symbiosis together. So one provides a safe area to live, and the other provides energy. So I wonder if any of your viewers at home are able to tell me what two organisms those are that make up lichen. And you only find lichen actually in areas with very, very clean air. So in the cities, especially big cities, like where I used to live in London, didn't see a lot of lichen. Is that something scurrying in the bushes behind us? Probably just a small bird. Who knows? Makes a large sound though. So lichen you'll only really find on very clean air. Kalina says it's fungus and algae. Kalina, you are 100% correct. Yes, fungus and algae. So the fungus creates a kind of a moist environment, a stable platform for the lichen to live on, and the algae photosynthesizes the sun's energy into nutrients. So that means that they both have a symbiosis together. In fact, there's a really cool type of lichen which is just over here. I'm trying to see if there's one that I can show you without damaging the tree. Oh, just down here. I don't know, Gerrit, if you'll be able to see that one. This type of lichen over here it's the same two organisms, just in a slightly different structure. So this is called foliate lichen. So because it looks like foliage on a tree. It's very interesting, very beautiful. If you took the time to walk around the bush in all these shady little areas, we're right next to Leopard Dam, which is just behind us. If you take a moment to walk around moist, shady areas, especially in forests where you live or down near rivers, look at the rocks and the trees, you'll find lots and lots of different type of lichen, which has these beautiful, delicate shapes and structures and often really wonderful colors. I've seen oranges and greens and whites and blues even. So it's really amazing. And what happens if it gets very dry, these lichen will often close up and look almost black in color. And then once it gets wet and moist again, you'll see them opening up and displaying those wonderful colors. So it's really cool. In fact, I think I see this knob thorn looks a bit loose. No, I'm going to stop trying. I'm going to stop trying because I keep trying to get these knobs off and it's not working. Okay, so whilst I look at this knob thorn and admire its knobliness, I'm going to send you back over to Twalu and the meerkats.
What's really interesting to see here is the fact that the dominant female, the alpha, the one that's got the pups, she's now probably 100 meters away from the burrow already. These little ones here are showing no signs of leaving, well, certainly at the moment. I think they will fairly soon. But what I reckon is going on here is she's getting more and more and more pressure, or feeling more pressure for foraging in terms of feeding these youngsters. Because remember, she's still lactating, producing milk for them. And with these cold conditions, she will be burning through energy at a phenomenal rate. So yeah, this cold front is, yeah, it's not going to be good for them at this time. But I'm hoping, and just now we'll show you what they've been doing around the burrows here. There's a lot of large digging holes, or holes that have been dug by them. And I think they're actually going for a lot of scorpions now. So I'm confident as long as they can get food items like that, it should be okay. And also the fact that they're not like, okay, apart from the alpha, the fact that the rest of them aren't just like barreling out, you know, that they're not desperate for food. There's a lot of good stuff around. You know, we're not seeing it on the surface because most of it's underneath the ground. There's no armored ground crickets that we've seen over the past couple of days. There may still be one or two left, they would be good food items. If they came across armored ground cricket, they would snaffle it in a heartbeat. So, but yeah, it's just interesting to note how she's obviously feeling the pressure now, slightly less so than the ones that aren't lactating. So it'll be interesting to watch the space going forward over the coming days. Wednesday is going to be critical. That Wednesday, Thursday is going to be critical. So I'm really hoping they get a lot of good quality foraging time in today. And this is why we've spent so much time with them. You know, butterfly. Won't you stand by me when the night is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see? No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. My singing skills are dismal. Thank you for that, butterfly. I really appreciate that. Yes. Oh my goodness. Meerkats, I apologize for that.
I would love to hear the entire rendition of Dylan's song. It sounds wonderful. So everybody, we did plan on leaving the lions and going and starting a medicinal segment for all of you, and this has taken a fair bit of time for the gentleman who's going to join us to come in, and it's difficult to leave a sighting until you've got someone else in there, so otherwise they won't find it. It's just very, very hard. These lions are very flat in the grass right now, and it'd be very difficult to find. So I'm now looking at the time and realizing that unfortunately the Nkuhumas have taken up too much time of me this morning, but I will, after our SABC show this afternoon, I will definitely pull over and do a medicinal segment. It is Monday. I hope that hasn't disappointed anybody. Sometimes, though, the animals provide. It's one of the main reasons why I always enjoy doing it on a walk, because you're not going to spend too much time with lions and elephants and leopards on a walk. You might have a few moments with them, but then you go off and find a quiet spot in a vehicle. Much easier to get up close and personal and spend an enormous amount of time with them. And I'm almost certain they're going to be right here this afternoon, just in the little shade of these trees. And if they do move, it'll be closer towards Galago Pan. Okay, well, I'm getting a little bit of a thirst after some coffee. Sounds like Eric's elephants have developed a thirst themselves.
And so we've got this elephant bull that we mentioned was drinking, and he hasn't left, but he has been joined by a few more individuals. So I wasn't losing my mind. We did see a herd of elephants coming. It just took them a lot longer to approach than what we thought. And look how closely they're all drinking. I mean, there's such a wide space for them to be able to spread out and drink, but they prefer to stand right next to one another. And look at how all of them, I think all of them, most of them at least, have walked at least a meter or so into the water. Just pertains to what I was saying a bit earlier, just trying to get the cleanest water possible in this water hole. So we were sitting and watching them coming from the dam wall, and one of the elephant bulls had another idea. He wanted us to back off a little bit, so we had to do quite a tricky reverse over the dam wall and around the corner. But as soon as he backed off, he's completely relaxed again. And that's him there, the cheeky one on the far left-hand side of this herd. But how's that? All at once, stopped drinking, and they've all started moving away from the waterhole, being led by the biggest female that we can see there. And so that would be the matriarch, and she probably would have given a signal off to the herd and said, okay, finish your drinking, it's time to go now. And they all just follow along. This is such a cool sighting. Lulu, it definitely is beautiful. And it just looks like they're walking so slowly and so quietly. I wonder what she would have said. She would have given off a signal and everyone would have heard it. And they all move. And I mean, I think Steve was talking about how quickly elephants can disappear yesterday, and it's just the prime example. But now that big elephant bull's in the herd, look at the size of him compared to the females around him. He is huge. And those are adult females in front of him. And they're half his size. Oh, look at that long tusk. That is a big, big, big elephant. And they're not too worried about him. He doesn't seem to be acting aggressively whatsoever. But he probably got the scent of this herd and decided to follow them. And he's just sticking to the back of them at the moment. And you'll probably see he'll follow them for quite some time, smelling the ground, going over to each female to sniff to see if she might be ready to mate or not. And as long as he's not too aggressive and can potentially harm the youngsters, the females will tolerate him and just let him follow along. You might find that behind him would be some of the smaller elephant bulls we saw initially. So that one with one tusk, the slightly smaller one, would stick and follow him. And when he decides to leave the herd, you might find that those 2 or 3 other elephant bulls within this area will move away with him. And being with a bigger, older, more experienced elephant bull, they get to learn from him. So learn the different pathways, learn where the different water holes are. I'm sure there's also a lot of behavioral learning that they learn from him too. See, he's got his trunk in the air now, so he's sniffing. Anushka, that's I do think that they can feel the vibrations, and when they are when you can hear or when you can see when they're communicating with one another, the most obvious sign is they completely freeze, and very often you'll see them completely stop what they're doing, and they will almost like rest their leg on the ground, and apparently they can pick up their vibrations through their feet, and they'll be able to communicate like that. Now, because it was so close there, I'm sure they would have just heard it. But I think those vibrations might be a lot more for long distance communication rather than short distance communication like this. Now that the elephants have moved off, I think we are going to too. Owen and I are going to start making our way back towards the river, and then probably start making our way back towards camp. So whilst we start driving around, I think we'll send you across to Steve and see if his lines are moving more than they did.
Thanks, Eric. This male was up for a moment. The other male, Blondie's, moved off. Don't know where he's going to. But this male Mohawk was up, and his belly is enormous. He is so full. So what happens quite often, I've seen it many times, is lions will go along, pride of lions, they'll make a kill. Depending on what the animal was, the male lion will be involved, and if there's 2 of them, those 2 males will get all of that animal, be it a kudu, maybe a zebra, maybe an impala, they will get all of it. And then the pride will get up and move and hunt again. And so it looks like these especially this one. I haven't seen Blondie's stomach, but his tummy is absolutely chock-a-block. So the lionesses would have left them and hunted again, and then these two tracked them down so as not to miss out on any opportunity later. Now, while it's still cool, they'll move and follow. And now lying just a little bit off from the rest of the pride, who've all found some shade. So that is another influencing factor in the pride. They do successfully hunt, but then it often gets stolen by the bigger male. They often say this phrase, there's no bigger scavenger than a male lion. They will steal from everybody. And he's gone back to sleep. But everybody, I'm not sure how many of you know Alex Vos. Alex Vos is our top super sort of tech guy who's been around for years. And Alex, it is your birthday today. Happy birthday, Alex Vos, from all of us here at Wild Earth. We hope you have a wonderful day wherever it is that you are. Whatever it is that you're doing today, we're sending much love and happiness to you on your birthday. So have a big one. And we'll catch up with you later, I'm sure. Happy birthday from Mohawk. He's saying happy birthday, Alex. Sorry there's no cake for you. I ate it all. He ate all of your cake, Alex. I'm sorry. I know Alex does like a bit of cake. And when he stood up and was trying to figure out what had got Blondie's attention, and he tried to lie down and he thought better of it because his stomach was so full. Can't really tell from this angle. Just goes to show how full they really can get their stomachs, because his stomach was so distended from the bottom. But when you see a lion after being with a buffalo or a giraffe where they can eat themselves until popping, that is exactly what happens. And you'll see sometimes that their stomach stands higher than their shoulder or their hips. Right now it's not showing that, which means that they probably caught a smaller animal and the lions shared them themselves. Still, bear in mind, a big male impala, about 60 odd 70 kilograms. That's a very nice meal for two males. The general weight ratio is that a lion can eat 25% of their weight. So a 250 kilogram male lion can eat 50 kilograms. Can you imagine that? That's over 100 pounds. Anyway, you've seen dead impala this morning. Its foot and its head and some bones. Let's go see some live ones.
No live impala for you. Instead, you get a warthog that also looks like it's been eating all of Alex's cake. So happy birthday from me as well to Alex Vos, and from the warthog who has clearly ate all his cake as well. This warthog has a bit of an identity crisis. It's hanging around with a substantial herd of impala. They're looking quite alert. So it's a little bit, more than a little bit windy at this point. The wind's picked up quite a lot. And Steve and his lions are just off this road. A couple hundred meters, maybe even a kilometer down this road. But they would be able to smell the predator in the air. So that's what's making them a little bit more alert. And that's one of the things that wind does, apart from distorting sound, so that they're not able to hear as well. It also changes the direction of the smells. Where is it coming from? It's coming from further. All of that. So they get very confused and very cautious. Annette, you say I've had some wonderful impala sightings. Well, thank you. I'm glad to have shared these wonderful impala sightings with you. Awesome, shiny, clean-looking creatures. Now, I was reading some interesting things. You know, we've always spoke about, because when we're looking at this herd, we know that some of these females will be pregnant, because we've just had the rut. And we've always heard this myth that impalas can kind of pause their pregnancy or hold their baby in until they're ready to give birth. And that is obviously a myth that once a fetus gets going, it can't simply just stop. It has to be born because it continues to grow. That being said, at a blastocyst stage, a pregnancy can be paused. In fact, many mammals can do that. So it's been a theory for a while, and it's been recently discovered that they actually can do this. The blastocyst stage is a very early stage in pregnancy, and it is before the fertilized blastocyst actually embeds in the uterus. Before that stage, it can actually be paused for up to a year. Very interesting stuff. It's amazing how sometimes fact and fiction are not that far off the truth. Anyway, off to some meerkats for you guys, and I'm going to head towards camp.
It's been a great morning out here so far. I'm just really pleased that it's a slightly warmer day today. This wind is, I think it's really playing in our favor. We've got, just so you know, we've got some, in fact, genre, I don't know if you can actually probably just see it from where your camera is there. If you can't, don't worry about it. But we've got a massive bank of clouds, very high, these beautiful cotton-like clouds just building up from the south, pushing in. That's that second cold front that's on its way in. So there we go. Genre can actually just see it nicely just through the tops of those bushes over there. It is stunningly beautiful. Very high cirrus. This is a portend of what's to come over the coming days. And we're just going to have fun. But yeah, it's just always so amazing having you all with us on this journey and that. And, you know, what happens with these meerkats happens. You know, I don't want anything bad to happen to the pups, but it is part of nature. We're not going to interfere. We're going to be with them the whole way, and I'm just really pleased that you're all with us on this journey. So wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, I really want you to stay safe, stay warm, think of what else you can ask us this afternoon, and we can't wait to have you back with us this Avi. And yeah, we will see you shortly. Have an amazing day further.